The following is an exclusive Prism Sports presentation. Prism, for 15 years, the channel the 76ers call home.
Time now for 76ers Insider. This month, we look at the 76ers and the All-Star Game.
First, we'll talk with the Sixers' perennial All-Star, Charles Barkley. I'm Tony Irving, and we'll talk with Charles about his previous All-Star appearances.
Actually, the worst part of the All-Star weekend is the game, because you go out all night Friday night, all night Saturday night, and then by the time the game comes around, you're too tired to play.
Next, we'll look at the rebuilding of an All-Star. I'm Dee Lynham, and we'll check in on the progress Jeff Rulin is making in his comeback and show you actual footage of the history-making surgery he underwent last summer.
And finally, we'll take a look at the last All-Star Game held in Philadelphia in 1976 and talk to NBA Commissioner David Stern about the explosive growth the league has seen since then. I'm your host for 76ers Insider, John Gurevich. All of that is coming up, plus our regular monthly features, Quiz, Chronicle, Playbook, and Tradition. This is it, the February edition of 76ers Insider. Sixers fans, Derek Coleman, Dražen Petrovic, and the New Jersey Nets are coming back for more on Wednesday, February 12th. Don't miss it when the Sixers demolish the Nets again, this time during their final Spectrum appearance of the season. The home court advantage is you, so be there on the 12th. Call Ticketmaster today at 336-2000. Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. That is the oath of the Special Olympics. On Sunday, April 5th, the Sixers will be holding their 11th annual Winners' Ball at Garden State Park. All proceeds will benefit the Pennsylvania Special Olympics. Come out and get a chance to mingle with Charles Barkley and the rest of the Sixers. Enjoy an evening of cocktails, gambling, dinner, dancing, and surprise entertainment. Limited spaces available, so call the Sixers now at 215-339-7604. This is an evening you'll never forget. All right, welcome to the February edition of 76ers Insider. It's been kind of hectic getting it all together this time around. The Sixers' schedule has kept us very busy. I think everybody is really looking forward to the All-Star break right now. And indeed, All-Star basketball is our theme this month, including the theme to the Insider Quiz, which we have now to get the show rolling. Okay, there have been two All-Star games at the Spectrum, 1970 and 1976. Now, in each of those years, the 76ers had two representatives on the East All-Star roster. Who were the two Sixers in the All-Star game at the Spectrum in 1970, and who were the two in 1976? Answers to the quiz coming up at the end of this half hour. Let's get right to what's happening with the 76ers right now. The Insider Chronicle segment, this time chronicling a January that really picked up steam as the month went on. Or at least it seemed that way until Jeff Rulin went down with a partial tear in his Achilles tendon on January 24th. The Sixers wound up putting together a 5-game winning streak, highlighted by the convincing 119-109 win against New York on the 22nd. The star that night was Charles Barkley, who grabbed 14 rebounds and rang up a season-high 37 points. Really getting people excited has been the solid contributions from other players. Armin Gilliam came up with 18 points and 17 rebounds in the Sixers' victory over Minnesota on the 24th. That came in the midst of a 5-game stretch for Armin, in which he averaged 22 points and 10.4 boards. Percy Hawkins has seemed to have gotten into a groove as well, most notably in the Sixers' win over Washington on January 20th. Percy shot 9 for 11 from the field that night, scored 24 points, and through a span of 6 games, shot an astonishing 62% from the field. Ron Anderson has been stroking the ball well also. Here he is in the Sixers' win over New Jersey on January 25th, the win that culminated the 5-game winning streak. He shot 7 for 12 in that game, scored 15 points, one of 6 games in a row for Ron, scoring at least 15 and shooting above 50%. Still, the Sixers seemed to miss the shot in the arm they got when Rulin first came back. In the 9 games he played, he didn't put up great numbers, but the Sixers got wins. In the 3 games before he came back and the 3 after his Achilles injury, the team struggled. Would it be fair to say he made things easier for some of the other guys, the Armin Gilliams and the Ron Andersons and the Hersey Hawkinses?
Well, the things he does are things that are not appreciated, you know, like setting screens to free up a shooter, just team defense, plugging up the lane, taking a foul when somebody's driving the lane, just all the things that go into winning.
For now, it's still hard to figure the 76ers. They still have shown inconsistency at times, like last Wednesday against Indiana. Struggling that whole night, they matched their biggest margin of defeat for the year, losing by 25 points. Okay, a little look at what's happening with the 76ers right now. What will be happening to the entire league come Sunday the 9th is the NBA All-Star Game in Orlando, Florida this year. For the Sixers, Charles Barkley will be making the trip down. And no, this hasn't been the best year ever for Charles Barkley, but as Tony Irving reports, now is the time you get to relax, have some fun, and cut loose a little bit.
The NBA's All-Star Weekend is a fan's bonanza. It's a chance for a young man to meet his heroes or sit on the sidelines and fantasize about being an All-Star. For the players, it's a well-deserved mid-season break. It's an opportunity to relax, get away from the pressure, and renew acquaintances.
I think the players, that's one that we have a very close family. I mean, there are very few players in the league who don't get along, and we love hanging out together. Actually, the worst part of the All-Star Weekend is the game, because you go out all night Friday night, all night Saturday night, and then by the time the game comes around, you're too tired to play. But that's what it's for. I mean, that's the only break we get during the year, and it's supposed to be fun, and we definitely have fun.
Hi. This is the real Mr. Robinson neighborhood. This is the real neighborhood. The real neighborhood. This is the real deal. Okay, thank you.
Real well. You guys, you play golf?
Oh, yeah.
In Orlando, the Sixers' Charles Barkley will make his 6th All-Star appearance. The first was in 1987 at Seattle's Kingdome. He played 16 minutes and scored 7 points. But after being out the previous night, Charles was just grateful to make it back to the hotel room.
I remember that I got in around 8 o'clock in the morning, and I got to sleep like 4 hours before the game. Sunday morning. I got in around 8 o'clock in the morning, and I got about 4 hours sleep for the game. I was glad I didn't get to play then, but now that I get a good night's sleep before the game, I do get a good night's sleep before the game. And it was fun. Nothing can replace the first one.
Good pass, Thomas. McHale to Barkley, and that's the best we've seen so far.
In 1987, Barkley enjoyed the company of 2 teammates, Maurice Cheeks and Julius Erving, plus a former teammate, Moses Malone. But Charles says the real joy in playing in an All-Star game is the level of talent on the floor. That makes the challenge tougher, and any subsequent success that much sweeter.
I mean, those 10 players you have out there at the same time, it's like, I mean, you can drive to the basket, and it's not like a bad center there. There's David Robinson there. I mean, like, you're trying to drive around Karl Malone to get to David Robinson. I mean, that doesn't happen, ever. And you can't explain what it's like. I mean, usually if you beat Karl Malone or Chris Mullin, there's not a guy back there who's that great. But then when you drive to the basket, you run into Olajuwon, Mutombo. I mean, it's an incredible feeling.
The All-Star Weekend is also an opportunity to spend time with family and close friends. When Charles Barkley goes to Orlando, he won't be alone.
The weirdest thing about the All-Star game is it's just one big party. And I think, and it's especially me because I take my wife, my daughter, my 3 best friends, my agent, my attorney. I take everybody, my mother, my grandmother, and they get to have a great time. I'm taking my 2 brothers, so everybody get to have a good time. So I take about 12 people. And for me, I just go there to try to relax because that's the only break we get during the season. But it's fun for them. They get to hang out with everybody, and it's really neat.
The All-Star Game is the ultimate playground extravaganza. When your 2 guard is Michael Jordan and your center is Patrick Ewing, that makes everybody's job a lot easier. Barkley says that great players are on the same page. They instinctively know what should occur in a given situation and respond. Plays that you can only dream about during the regular season become reality during the All-Star Game.
Barkley in a crowd. Finds Jordan. Great pass from Barkley for the jam.
you play with very few guys who think as fast as you do. So you get an opportunity to like do stuff, and it works out perfect that normally wouldn't work out. Because I think the guys they call superstars think faster than everybody else. The game's in slow motion, as Jimmy Lanham likes to say. And but those guys are on the same page with you, and it's a great feeling.
Charles Barkley had 17 points and 22 rebounds in last year's game to win the MVP. At the time, the Persian Gulf War raged on, and Barkley took the time to put the game in its proper perspective.
But hopefully, sports will get back in its proper context, what it is, entertainment. And I hope for 2 hours today, the troops over in the Persian Gulf and the fans can forget about everything and just enjoy themselves.
Here's a man who's trying to forget about 5 years of inactivity. When we continue, actual footage through the orthoscope of Jeff Rulin's rebuilt knee. Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. That is the oath of the Special Olympics. On Sunday, April 5th, the Sixers will be holding their 11th annual Winners' Ball at Garden State Park. All proceeds will benefit the Pennsylvania Special Olympics. Come out and get a chance to mingle with Charles Barkley and the rest of the Sixers. Enjoy an evening of cocktails, gambling, dinner, dancing, and surprise entertainment. Limited spaces available, so call the Sixers now at 215-339-7604. This is an evening you'll never forget.
Al Morganti.
Trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Glenn Macnow.
Hey, I've got all the answers. Honest.
Jason Stark.
Nobody understands sports better than I do.
Angelo Cataldi.
Who needs these guys? I should have my own TV show.
Fenway. Opinions, arguments, and a dog. What more do you need? The great sports debate every week exclusively on Prism, the channel with a better variety of sports.
Well, 76ers assistant coach Fred Carter never played in the All-Star game, which actually might surprise you, considering all the good years he had as a player. But he's an All-Star to us. And on this month's Insider Playbook, we check in as Fred explains the 76ers 2-2-1 full court press.
Fellas, we've done a very good job on our 2-2-1 trap, which we call 21. And to re-emphasize and to go over it again, all the movement and the possibilities in our full court trap, when the ball is on the sideline of the floor, what we would like to do is, first of all, the forward in the 2-2-1 on the wing. So let's say, for example, Charlie, that's you on that wing. Let's make sure we deny the ball coming down this side of the floor. So that way now, there's a denial, there's pressure. What we'd like to also do when the ball's on this side of the floor, the weak side defensive player now, Armin, which would be you, the four-man, we would like for you to slide toward the middle to now cut off the pass coming to that middleman, because most teams will always put a man in the middle versus a trap to be able to catch the ball and enable themselves to break the trap. So Armin, you will deny. Meanwhile, Hawkins, you're playing your man in the passing lane as well. Johnny, what we would like to do now is influence this guard, influence the dribble this way toward the middle of the floor, so this way Hawkins can trap, Johnny, you can trap. Once we get a good, clear, honest trap without a foul, now our defensive players, Charlie and Armin, now you become ball thieves. When that trap forms, our five-man Shaq, now you move up the middle of the floor because you become a ball thief as well, because now this player who is now in this spot has to throw a high pass. We've been fortunate enough to be able to steal this ball and get fast break layups. If not, we've also been able to force them to utilize the 24-second clock, so by the time a pass is made down here and this guy dribbles the ball a little ways, now the ball is brought back to the point guard who came down the floor. Instead of having 18 on the shot clock, now they're down to 14-13, in which they're not able to set up their offensive set. Advantage goes to the defense, and that's the opportunity we'd like to get in that 2-2-1 trap.
Not that long ago, the idea of people talking so much about defense in pro basketball seemed a little bit far-fetched. Times have changed. And not that long ago, the idea of Jeff Rulin coming out of retirement seemed a little bit far-fetched. Jeff was an All-Star in 1984, and although he's not playing at All-Star caliber this year, he certainly did give the Sixers a huge shot in the arm when he came out of his 5-year retirement last month. Now, the comeback's on hold for now, the result of that torn Achilles tendon. We have Dee Lynam reporting now on what's next for Jeff Rulin.
He was an overachiever who ultimately made his mark on the league, a force to reckon with at both ends of the court. In 1984 and 85, Jeff Rulin was selected to the NBA All-Star team, an indication of just how good a basketball player he was.
Number 43, Jeff Rulin.
In 1986, when the Sixers acquired Rulin, They were looking at a strong center to take them well into the 90s. Then came the big blow. Ruland forced to retire at the age of 28 due to a knee injury that just wouldn't heal, or so they thought.
Go to training camp. Right then it started blowing up. Got me worried right then. Played a couple games. They put me off for a while. I went back. He went back in. He said, I don't know how to tell you this. Your knee's gotten so much worse. He says, I give you a 50-50 chance. That's even kind of high. I kind of knew I couldn't even, there was just a big pocket of swelling, and I couldn't jump or do anything.
The surgery that Jeff would eventually undergo was available at that time, but the procedure was fairly new, and Jeff had to weigh his options.
Basically, there was a small percentage that it could work, but I was risking, you know, at that time I was at least able to walk, and it wasn't that painful. I was risking that, so that's why I didn't have it done.
Jeff's desire to play basketball allowed the idea of surgery to resurface, but it was not the motivating force.
It was more so to try to live a normal life without pain. I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse. You know, I was probably going to start using a cane soon, and who knows after that.
The success rate of this surgery over the past 5 years has been impressive.
Since I retired, he's done at least 300 people, and he could show me the data that they've all improved to some degree. They all got better than they were. Then he told me about some of the professional athletes that he performed the surgery on, and one guy was a linebacker for San Diego who actually had a worse knee than mine. He came back to be an all-pro linebacker. At the time, Dr. Stedman said he thought there was a 75% chance I could come back if I was willing to work hard enough.
Could you, as best you could in layperson's terms, describe what they did when they went in there?
Well, they go in and they kind of puncture holes, tap holes in the bone, and then scrape the surface. What it actually does is they're trying to fracture the area where the bone had died or whatever. No blood flow, there's bone on bone, no cartilage. So this kind of shocks the knee into thinking that it's a new injury, therefore promoting itself to heal itself. And what I had was the bone came back, and you cannot grow cartilage back, but there's a form of, I guess it's called a scar cartilage. And what was amazing was I had about 100% growth in both areas.
This new scar tissue will act as, hopefully, a mechanism to absorb shock and also act as a spacer in the knee.
All eyes have been focused on Jeff's left knee since his return, yet his knee has been the least of his problems.
He's been the victim of a couple of freak accidents. He tripped over a camera cord, sprained his ankle. He ran into a camera in Chicago, and he got hit with an equipment cart in Boston.
Jeff's most recent complication is a partial tear to his right Achilles tendon, an injury that will hopefully keep him out only a short time. As far as his knee goes,
he'll come in and he'll lift a little bit before practice. We'll ice the knee down, do some things with his low back, do his flexibility stuff. Then we'll go out on the court, and he'll go through a flexibility routine, get in a good warm-up. The bottom line here is that he loves to play basketball, and he'll do what it takes to continue playing basketball.
You know, I had my days in the sun with the All-Star right now. I'm a role player. I'm glad to be back and do whatever the coach tells me to do. And the bottom line is I want to win the championship ring, and hopefully I'll be around long enough to accomplish that.
When 76ers Insider continues, David Stern on the significance of the 1976 All-Star Game in Philadelphia.
That was the beginning, I think, of us recognizing that it was better for us to try to grow the pie and then maybe later on worry about how we're going to split it.
Sunday, February 16th, the Detroit Pistons will be appearing at the Spectrum for the first time this season. See the Sixers take on Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, and the rest of the bad boys from Detroit. It's a daytime game beginning at 1 p.m., and you can still get good seats. Call Ticketmaster today at 215-336-2000.
What's playing on Prism this February? Robin Williams gives Robert De Niro a second chance at life in Awakenings. Heartthrob Richard Grieco is forced to play James Bond in If Looks Could Kill. Judd Nelson and Ice-T bring down the drug lord of New Jack City. A speeding ticket gets Demi Moore, Chevy Chase, and John Candy into nothing but trouble. And Shirley MacLaine helps Terry Garr manufacture a minor miracle in Waiting for the Light. Just some of the movies waiting for you this month on Prism, the channel with a better variety of movies.
Welcome back to 76ers Insider. We come to you monthly here on Prism with the show, and don't forget Prism is carrying coverage of play-by-play of most of the games through the course of the season. Over the years, the Sixers have had dozens of All-Stars. One of my favorites, quite possibly one of your favorites, and one of Tony Irving's favorites was Mo Cheeks. And in our Insider Tradition segment, we take a look now at one of the game's great pure point guards.
In 1988, the All-Star focus was on Chicago, and of course Michael Jordan, who scored 40 points and won the Most Valuable Player award. 1988 was also the last time Maurice Cheeks made the All-Star team. It was a homecoming for Cheeks, a Chicago native who played basketball at DuSable High School, where the coach was Bob Bonner.
When I started coaching basketball, he was the first guy in the gym. At the beginning of practice, he was the last kid to leave. I never had to tell him anything more than once. He took it upon himself to develop his shooting skills, to develop his ball handling skills. He did everything, and he worked harder at it than anybody on the squad.
As a young man, Maurice Cheeks occupied these hallways. His basketball game first took root in this gym, the home of Chicago's DuSable High Panthers.
He made a great coach out of me because he did so many things and he did them so well. And being a very quiet, shy youngster. In the 3 years he was here, I only got 10 words out of him. And I almost had to twist his arm to get those out. And I understand he hasn't changed. And this is an admirable quality. The fact that he has achieved so much success, and he's still the same quiet, unassuming, shy kid that we had here in high school. We're very proud of him. We're very proud of Maurice.
Brings back some memories, doesn't it? Well, if you really have a good memory, you might remember the last time the All-Star game was played in Philadelphia. That was in 1976. And it's worth taking a look back at that game to see how far the NBA has come since then. 1976 was the bicentennial year, and we had all sorts of major events in Philadelphia. And we also had leisure suits. The starters in that game for the West All-Stars, Nate Archibald, Brian Winters, remember Bobby Dandridge? Here's Kareem, and coming around is Rick Barry. Coach of the West All-Stars that year was Golden State's Al Attles, the big guy leaning into the huddle there. And the East All-Star coach was Tom Heinsohn with that tie. Starters for the East All-Stars, there's Dave Bing, Walt Frazier. Okay, John Havlicek was one of the starters. This is Bob McAdoo. They're working around a little here, and here's the fifth starter, Elvin Hayes. There was a lot going on off the court that year, and not all of it was sideline dancing. Most notably, the NBA was tangled up in Robertson versus the NBA, the bitter antitrust lawsuit pitting the players against the league. It turns out the 1976 All-Star game might have come precisely at the time when the NBA really started to turn around. We came up here to the NBA offices in New York City and talked about that with the commissioner of the NBA, David Stern.
The 1976 All-Star game was the meeting at which we settled the lawsuit, Robertson versus the NBA, ending what seemed like a century, but maybe it was only a decade of litigation. And so the meetings were held in Philadelphia. The negotiations were going back, and I was the lawyer outside, the lawyer for the league that time. So I remember, I remember the setting. What we were able to accomplish in Philadelphia, owners and players begin working together, stop suing each other. It took a few more years for it to ultimately get to where it had to get to, but that was the beginning, I think, of us recognizing that it was better for us to try to grow the pie and then maybe later on worry about how we're going to split it.
Look how that pie has grown. 9 teams have been added to the NBA since 1976. Average attendance has increased by about 50%. The average player salary has skyrocketed. I mean, $130,000 is about the league minimum right now. And the number of employees in the league office has grown to where the whole group can no longer all go out to lunch together. Retail sales has become a $1 billion business. overall revenue has grown by leaps and bounds, and the value of owning a team has spiraled upwards.
Were there specific events along the way? People have talked about a Larry Bird and a Magic Johnson coming in the same year, the drug agreement and so forth.
I think it's really been everything. I think that we were lucky enough to have Larry and Magic starting in 79, 80. At the same time as Kareem and Dr. J were, still part of the league actively. I think, ultimately both our problems with drugs and then our anti-drug agreement and the continued growth, I would say, of the college game as well.
Significantly, the 1976 All-Star Game was televised in one country, the good old USA, and there were no foreign journalists. This year's game in Orlando will be broadcast in 83 nations, and some 6 reporters from overseas will be on hand. And when David Stern looks at the All-Star Game of the future,
I think that, maybe we'll have a 4-team competition because we'll invite in some All-Star teams from around the world, and we'll make it the global All-Star Game. And, but I think, one of the beauties of our game is that when opening tap, what goes on that court 5 against 5 hasn't changed an awful lot. And my guess is that the game itself will change very little.
there's more coming up when 76ers Insider continues the answers to the quiz.
There's a touch of evil in the air this February on Prism. Ray Sharkey kidnaps Gary Busey's children in an act of piracy. A crazed woman lures men into a black widow's web in deadly innocence. A life-saving gesture turns into a deadly favor in Painted Black. And it's an artistic murder by remote control in Fair Game. 4 chilling films guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat this month on Prism, the channel with a better variety of thrillers. The world's greatest tennis players are coming to the Comcast Metrophone US Pro Indoor presented by Advanta and Safeguard Scientifics. And you can see them play for a very special price just for being a Prism subscriber. Call 922-0197 and you'll get 1 free ticket for every ticket you order for sessions February 17th through 20th at the Spectrum. Order as many as you want, but remember this offer is only available by calling 922-0197. It's the best deal on or off the court, and it's just for you from Prism.
Well, if you have successfully come up with the answers to this month's Insider Quiz, you receive a special 76ers Insider pat on the back, which you actually administer yourself, like this. Here are the answers to this month's quiz. All right, the 2 Sixers who played in the All-Star Game at the Spectrum in 1970. First, Billy Cunningham, who scored 19 points, and also Hal Greer, who added 15 in his final All-Star appearance. And the 2 Sixers who played in the 1976 game at the Spectrum. One was George McGinnis, contributing 10 points and 7 rebounds, and the other, Doug Collins, his All-Star debut, 12 points. By the way, Doug Collins and also Bobby Jones will be playing in the All-Star Saturday Legends game, part of the All-Star Weekend festivities with the Slam Dunk Contest and the 3-point shootout. Listen, thanks so much for joining us on the show this month. To us, you're an all-star just for watching. Looking forward to the March edition of 76ers Insider next month. Thanks again for joining us. Clothing provided by Tory, the official clothier of the 76ers. Regular big and tall sizes, 36 to 70. Clothing, sportswear, and outerwear.